Now to New South Wales politics. New South Wales Deputy Premier has reneged on his threat to stop supporting state government legislation. The stoush in the coalition was sparked by Nationals MPs' fury over a policy designed to protect koalas. State political reporter Ashley Raper joins us now from Sydney. Ash, g'day. So take us through the events of the morning.
Well, this morning the Nationals had an emergency meeting to decide what they would take to the Premier. They took a proposal that they wanted to negotiate on certain things. Now, that meeting with the Premier lasted half an hour, and the Premier had her own demands, and she got what she wanted. She wanted an agreement from the Nationals that they would stay in Cabinet and support government legislation. She got that. She wanted them to agree that the coalition partnership would stay intact, and she got that. Now, one other thing that John Barilaro took to this negotiation, he wanted a meeting over this koala policy. He wanted that issue discussed in the next Cabinet meeting, which is September the 21st. Now, the Premier said no, she wasn't going to discuss it at that Cabinet meeting. It wasn't on the agenda. She will discuss it at a Cabinet meeting, but a Cabinet meeting of her choosing. So really here, John Barilaro has walked away with nothing. The Premier has stared him down and won.
So where does that leave his leadership?
Well, we understand right now that John Barilaro is back in a meeting, a Zoom meeting with his Nationals MPs to talk them through what happened with the Premier, and that is going on right now. But you'd have to say that there is a big question mark now over John Barilaro's leadership. He kept pushing this issue. He pushed and he pushed, and he took his party with him, and he pushed it right to a point, and then he has effectively rolled over here. So he is now a weakened leader, very much so, and it'll be interesting to see if his party still unites behind him here, because whether he can now be the strong coalition partner here that the Nationals need, you would think that he can't be, really.
And the next election isn't until 2023, I think. What are the implications from this for Gladys Berejiklian's leadership over that period?
Well, this shows a major strength in her leadership, how she has handled this. This is a very different approach to how she normally deals with John Barilaro in the past. Now, John Barilaro is known for being almost all talk and making threats to the coalition, but this is the furthest he has ever taken one of his threats to split the coalition, and in the end he hasn't followed through because he wanted to keep his national MPs in the ministry. So now for Gladys Berejiklian, she's an emboldened leader. She has Liberal MPs that seem very happy with how she has handled this, and now the Nats now have to regroup and see how they're going to handle that, because this coalition needs to come back together. This rift has to be healed. So from the Liberals' perspective, that perhaps that healing can't happen with John Barilaro as the leader. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of hours, whether John Barilaro does in fact stay as leader, whether there'll be pressure for him to go, or whether he may go himself.
Yeah. OK, we'll leave it there. Ash Raper, state political reporter in New South Wales. And Dr. Mark Rolfe is a politics expert from the University of New South Wales, and he joins us now from Erina on the New South Wales Central Coast. Mark Rolfe, welcome. So what do you make of what's happened in New South Wales politics over the last 48 hours?
Good morning. Well, it looks as though that there's going to be quite a bit of a standoff for a while, because the National Party faces an implacable Premier on one side and the Shooters, Farmers and Fishers Party eating its lunch on another side. And also, I tend to think that a lot of this stems from issues around the north coast of New South Wales, and all those things are not going to go away. So whether Barilaro stays or goes is a bit neither here nor there, because of the situation of the National Party in that three-cornered situation.
So how vulnerable is the National Party on the New South Wales North Coast? How many seats do they hold up there at the moment that might be in danger if they're seen to be weak on this issue?
Well, a lot of the charge within the National Party seems to stem from two North Coast MPs, the member for Clarence and the member for Coffs Harbour. Now, on the North Coast of New South Wales, development issues are a major problem, and they featured in the last state election. Now, there's been a lot of push on agricultural land in the area from residential development, people fleeing from Sydney, and also tourist development. And a lot of farmers either wanting to get out of the farming game and selling off the land, or converting to multi-use, with some sort of tourist development to supplement their income. Now, this SEPP change is, I think, basically connected to the development issue. And the Shooters, Farmers and Fishers Party have, over months now, been prodding the Nationals on this very issue and saying, well, look, there have been developments knocked back, so they claim, according to this law. And so I think that's going to continue. And because of the weakness of the National Party in trying to assert its own identity on a range of issues, like the Murray Basin Darling Authority and with fracking and mining around Narrabri and Gunnedah, as well as the koala habitat issue, they're struggling. And in a sense, I suppose, that's why they've tried to make up ground now on a law that they agreed to back in November and came into effect in March.
So can you go into a few details on this law for us and explain for viewers outside the New South Wales what the SEPP is? I think it's State Environmental Planning something or other. Just go into that one a bit of detail for us. And how much harder these laws apparently or allegedly make it for farmers to clear land if they want to?
Look, I'll preface by saying I'm not a lawyer nor an expert in the deep depths of this policy. But you have Robert Stokes, the Planning Minister, leading the change on this, basically trying to balance, I think, the issues of koala habitats, which, as we all know, have been largely destroyed in the recent fires, on the one hand, and also some sense of planning the nature of development change and farming, large-scale farming practices around the state. Now, he insists that the laws do not impact on many day-to-day farming practices, like building sheds, driveways, cutting down single trees and things like that, allowed under the Native Vegetation Act. What this is going to do is give some more detailed knowledge, according to what I've read so far, of a range of maps of koala habitats using science. This science has apparently been critiqued for using modelling and anecdotal evidence, although I think that's arguable at best, and still attempting to build that knowledge while also including councils in the approval process. So it's not a process that aims to simply stop farmers doing whatever they want. It's to, in fact, include councils in the approval process, rather than a lot of these development applications going straight to the Department of Environment.
And so is this policy worth the Nats dying in a ditch over and threatening to blow up the coalition?
Not when they seem to get themselves into such a cul-de-sac, a political cul-de-sac over this. And they've made a stand for their political identity in this situation. But I think in the process, the larger problem is, how do the Nats identify their general interest over a range of issues against the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party?
And so can John Barilaro remain head of the Nats now in a coalition government?
Look, it depends on whether his head is needed as a sort of public sacrifice to try and re-establish the coalition facade with the Premier. Even if he goes, there'll still be the same problems I outlined before. It may be necessary to have a new figurehead in lead of the Nationals, but they'll still be in the same situation.
Yeah. OK, Mark Rolfe, thanks so much for having a chat to us this morning from the Central Coast of New South Wales.
Thank you.